We're going to get started again. If I can get you to come back to your seats. Don't make me have Carmen yell at you.
Hello, everybody. Back to your seats.
I warned you.
Jessica, back to your seat. Teresa. And that one comes. The wrong Teresa, but it's a good one.
All right.
John, let's get everybody back in the seats, please.
Yep,
I don't want to lose everybody. Hello?
Don't make me call you out by name.
Time's up. Okay. Oh, okay.
Pointed at your, yeah.
Oh. Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right. All right.
Can we begin again? Thank you.
So, Carmen, you mentioned working for the city of Long Beach. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I went to work for Ray Broster House, and again, I worked in juvenile diversion and worked in public relations, and that's how I met Mary and Dale Clinton, and I see someone here, Evelyn Knight, worked with them at Poly, and worked with a lot of racial issues that were happening at that time, and then went to work under another friend of mine, Henry Taboada. At that time, I remember looking at a white paper, and any time I saw a blank paper, that would scare the living daylights out of me. Just seeing a white paper, and they were asking for reports. And it was Henry that helped me get over that fear. I remember him saying very clearly that I wasn't afraid to speak. Why was I afraid to write things down? And I was a reader. I've always been a reader. Henry was very, very much a part of helping me do good things in the city of Long Beach. And I think he's here right now, and I always love him for that. That's my brother, Henry Taboada, former city manager.
Yes. Now, then you went on after working for the county. You were, well, it's still the county, but you worked at Rancho Los Amigos.
When Kenny Hahn decided not to run after he had his stroke, I decided to go and work at Rancho. But when he did not run again, I went to Rancho. And I retired from Rancho after 25 years with the county. I worked for Yvonne Burke and for Kenny Hahn at the Hall of Administration. But when Yvonne lost the first time, I went to work at County UC Medical Center, and then I went to work at Rancho. Probably some of the best times I've had is working at the hospital setting.
Anything about that? Can you tell us why? Why was working at the hospital?
When I worked at County UC Medical Center, you know, when you come in and you're the first one to come in to work for anybody, they give you the worst jobs ever. And I remember coming into work for County UC Medical Center, and that day they were having a going-away party for someone, and everybody said, "Oh, welcome to our department." Remember, I was a deputy, and they didn't like deputies that much. And so I was a deputy without a job, so I went to work at county. And I figured, okay, I'll make them like me. And somewhere along the line, my boss, Mr. Droz, called me into his office and said, "You know, I'm trying to think I'm going to do. I can't think of the name. Every year, the county, the city, and all governmental agencies have a game, not a game, deal where they raise money for Red Cross, or what is it called? United Way. Thank you, United Way." And he said, "Oh, darn it, United Way is doing it again, and I have to have so much money, and this is yours, you take it." I don't even know what United Way is. And I said, "Okay, but I'm a thinker." I went and sat down on my desk, and I thought, I went across the street. there was a hotel, I don't know what its name is now, but I went and spoke to the director and said if he could lend me the bottom floor. And then I called the male strippers were called Chippendale. I called Chippendale. And I am not making this up. I called Chippendale and I said, we have to raise money for United Way. Do you think you can send me 2-3 guys? And they said, what do you want? I wanted a policeman. I wanted a fireman. And I got them. But I got smart. I went and I had tickets done. And I called all the women department heads. And I said, you have to sell 15, you have to sell 20, whatever it was. Every female in that hospital, that county hospital, Friday night was going to go Chippendale, right? And the second in command to Paul Droz was this very straight-laced lady, okay? But she even went. And when she was putting that dollar in that guy's panties, I thought, I got it. This was Friday night. On Monday morning, I get a call. Carmen, get your ass in here. True story. I'm thinking, okay, I'm fired. But I went in there, and he said, what in the world did you do? My phone hasn't stopped ringing, blah, blah, blah. And the door opened, and here comes Clara Haynes. And she said, I've never had so much fun in my life. And he looked at her, and he said, you were there? And he goes, Paul, yes, I even signed you up, so you owe me $50. Ladies and gentlemen, that year, I went with Paul Droz to the county board of supervisors to receive the biggest trophy ever. No one has ever made that kind of money. It was fun, Sharon.
I bet it was fun. I bet it was. Anyway, okay, I got to change the subject after that. So you mentioned that you were I think you said the vice chair of the California Democratic Party, but you went on with the National Democratic Party as vice chair.
Yes, but if you remember, again, there's some people here that will remember. California Democratic Party used to have the Southern vice chair, the Southern chair, and the Northern chair, and they stopped that years ago. At that time, Nancy Pelosi was the Northern chair. And Peter Kelly was running for the chair of the Southern area, and I decided to run. Again, I'm sitting in Don Foltz's, and he said, why don't you run? And I go, what would I know how to run? And they go, we're going to run you. And Jim, you did a good job. Everybody ran me, and I won. I run for Southern vice chair. And then I decided, well, I can run for vice chair for the state. And I did that. And then I thought, what the hell? Go for the nation.
So tell us about meeting Nancy Pelosi.
I love that woman. She didn't know what to make of me when I first met her. I remember being in San Diego. I'm using Jim Hayes a lot, and I apologize if I'm making you uncomfortable, Jim. But I think he drove us to San Diego, if I'm not mistaken, and that's where she was there, and I met her there. We became friends through just working in the political arena, and then she decided, and I'm getting off a little bit because just to tell you about my friendship with her, then she decided she was going to run for chair of the DNC. And I literally left my family for a month and went and moved in an apartment with her and Paul, her husband, in Washington, D.C. I am so glad she lost, because when she lost, 3 months later, she became a congresswoman. So I'm glad. But during the time that I was vice chair and chair and I was running, she would have fundraisers for me at her house in San Francisco. And many times when I was helping her with her races, you know, she has a lot of kids. And I would go, but they would put me in this white Naugahyde, horrible couch, and like plastic. And I said, one day I got up in the morning, I said, you're going to find me a hotel room or whatever, or I'm going to go work for your opponent. This is terrible. So obviously, her daughter Nancy left her bedroom, and I went in there. But yes, again, politics have given me some wonderful friends.
Absolutely. And you still are friends with her to this day?
To this day, very much so.
So I want to return to something else you mentioned, and that was serving on the Harbor Commission. So it was in 1991 that you were appointed to the Harbor Commission, only the second woman, I think, the first woman of color. And tell us, then what was it like being on the Harbor Commission then? I know what it's like now, but what was it like then?
I think it's a lot different, and I think that it was very male. Let me give you a story on how I think it was. If you went to China, I hope you port people are hearing this, Cordero. You went to China, you went to any of the Asian countries, they would serve us wonderful dinners. And the host would say to the president at that time, we always serve the fish the last. And in your honor, we have this fish, and we will serve the fish head. And every one of those 4 males would say, oh, no, thank you, no. And I said to myself, the day that I get there, I'm going to say yes. So I'm sitting down, and this wonderful gentleman said the same thing, in your honor, blah, blah. And I said, I can't wait, but you're going to have to show me how to eat it. And he said, okay. He took the plate away. And what they do, if anybody ever tells you, say yes. They only get the cheeks. They put the cheeks with this wonderful sauce. It was the best thing I've ever eaten. I ate it, and then, of course, when we left to have a drink somewhere, one of the commissioners said, why did you say yes? I said, for God's sake, look at me. I eat cabezas. I eat cabezas. I eat all of that. Brains, that's what we eat. What are you talking about? Fish head ain't going to do nothing, right? And one time we were sitting down. I was president, and I had worked, Bonnie, and I really studied this one area that I knew they were going to ask, and I was ready. But the gentleman that was asking the question, this was in Japan, would say, he would ask the question, and he would turn around to see one of the 2 other commissioners, and they were males, right? They were so smart, they would say, Carmen is our president. Because I told him a long time ago, I will never embarrass you, the port, myself, or my family. But when we get to the United States, your ass is mine. Okay. So they knew. And it never bothered me again, right? I will tell you, I had such wonderful, and I mean this sincerely with every one of them. I had a very, very good rapport. Again, it was just being nice. If I was going to go against a director on an issue, I would go into his office and tell him, I'm going to vote no, and this is the reason I'm going to vote no. But I need your vote. I'm sorry, this is the reason I'm going to go vote no. Always do the right thing, and you're going to do it. But, don't just say, okay, I'm going to do it because everybody tells me to do it. But I will tell you that the 12 years that I spent there, with all of those commissioners, every one of them was a blast for me, and there was never any bad feelings, there was anything. I think that the only person he was upset that I got the commission to begin with, was the first director that I worked with. But then I figured it out. I figured that I Was not going to win him over, so I had to win over the commissioners and the others. Not a problem. He left, I stayed.
There you go. There you go. But you were instrumental in the reason we have harbor tours, aren't you?
When Ernie Kell asked me to be a commissioner, I didn't know where the port was. I mean, I knew where the port was, but I didn't know anything. I was dating this guy, and I said, honey, let's get in the car and let's go see where the water is and the port is. So then, the more you read, and I hope you read the book that's out there, my name's in that. When I found out about what a gift the port is to this city, what a gift the port is to the state, what a gift this port is to everything, then I thought, I better learn. But then I found out that a lot of people in some of the areas didn't know the port at all. So why couldn't we have port tours? And I remember saying that, and I remember them looking at me, Evan, like if I was just out of my mind again. If I could have those male strippers, why couldn't I have port tours? Think about it. Think about it. So now we have that, and I think it's one of the best things that the port does, because everybody can take pride in one of the biggest and best assets that we have here in our city.
It's true. But now I'm thinking we should have male strippers on port tours.
I will handle that.
So before we give the folks who are here with us the chance to ask some questions, I just want to, you also served, you had other public service roles on the state, you served on the state parole board, and that must have been really interesting, I have to say.
That was very interesting. I hope these stories are okay.
They're wonderful.
I was called into the governor's office. I was told that they wanted to assign me to the parole board. They knew I had worked juvenile diversion a lot, and they wanted to for narcotics in Corona. And I said, I'd love to. And then again, I thought, I've never been to a prison. I've never been to a port, never been to a prison. So I went to the Long Beach Police Department, and I don't know if anybody remembers Jean Brizzolera. So I called Jean, and I said, Jean, I need your help. He goes, what? And I said, I need to go to the prison. I need to go see the prison. And Mickey Bennett was one of the policemen, so he took me to the prison. Again, honor here. I'm walking the prison grounds, and all of a sudden I hear somebody say, hey, Carmen! Hey, Carmen! Whoa. I can feel myself getting... I turned around. It was a guy from the neighborhood. I don't know how you say, well, you probably say macaroni in English, but there they used to call him macaron. And I said, macaron, and I went over and shook his hand. He goes, what are you doing here? Like, thought what are you doing here? And I told him why I was there. And I have to tell you, I could see him just pull his chest out. One of his homies was there in a different capacity. It was interesting. This was Jerry Brown that appointed me. And he said, then I had to go get confirmation, remember? And remember, the one that voted against me was Dugmagian. Why? Because I was working for Renee Simon against Dugmagian. But as I said to Don Kanabi, my dear friend, I said, the minute he won the election for governor, I immediately put in a letter of resignation, as everybody should do right away, put a letter of resignation and said, I'm off the commission right away. Years later, Gloria, who was was the love of his life and just a wonderful woman, said to me one day, my husband used to say, I'm sorry I took that resignation. She's more conservative than any. Remember, I told you I'm very conservative. So if they lived anywhere near Long Beach, another 10 years. No, I'm just kidding on that. But no, I served there, and then I got called through Gray Davis, and I was appointed to the National Port Authority. So I served with them there too.
Oh, great. Well, I cannot hog you all to myself. So we're going to give, if anyone has any questions, we're going to give you a chance to ask them. What? Oh, DNC. Well, yeah.
I
So
ran
you were
for
the
everything. Then I ran for the National Democratic Convention. Richard Polanco ran my campaign, and he ran it like I was running a presidential. He had so many people there. People that were very important people working that campaign. It was probably one of the best campaigns I've ever seen. I think that what I did there, one of the things that I did there that I'm very proud. You know, when you belong to an organization, you try to do one thing, at least one thing that you can say, I'm leaving it and I did this. When I was there was, in the executive committee, there was no Black caucus and there was no Hispanic caucus. So I was chair of the Rules Committee. And I said to, maybe you remember this name, he was a congressman from Texas, Mickey Leland. Anybody that knows politics, Mickey Leland. So I said to Mickey Leland, here's what I want to do. I'm going to bring in a motion. I want you to second it. And so the meeting was like at 10 o'clock at night. It was a long meeting. And the gentleman that was the chair was a wonderful human being. Believe me, just a really good guy. He's a machinist. And I said, I'd like to make a motion that we bring in the chair or a representative from the Latino caucus and one from the African American caucus. And he said, oh, you know, you're here at the Rules Committee. That's more than enough. We don't need any more, whatever. And I said, you know, I came in earlier, and I was able to get a little morsel of an appetizer. I really liked it. And then they served coffee, and I had a little bit of dessert. I don't know about all of you, but I really want to have the main course. And then Mickey started doing his thing. Well, the guy that was the chair was very bright. He said, right now what's going on in this hotel is all of the parties. I'm going to break for an hour, and I bet these two people are going to go to their parties. I'm not even going to see them. So as Mickey gets up, I get up, and I said, I don't know about you, Mickey, but I'm going to go in my room, and I'm going to lock myself there for 50 minutes, and then I'm going to go sit down. And you're going to do the same thing, Mickey. Okay. So when we got back there, and we had already talked to different people, Mickey called for the vote. I will second Carmen's resolution. Bottom line is that today you have a chair of the Black caucus and you have a chair of the Latino caucus. That's what I wanted to do with the DNC, and we did it.
Yay. And thank you. All right, now, see, you got to listen.
Does anybody have a question for me?
I see Jan Burke.
So out of all your different hats you've worn, is there one you haven't put on that you wish you had?
Not really. I think the best title I have is Nana. Yeah. I have treasures. Oh, there's Evelyn. She has gotten me into so many troubles.
Well, I'm not going to get you in any trouble, Carmen. I would just like to know you know, being a port commissioner, and you know, before you became a port commissioner, what could you share with us who will probably never be a commissioner, don't know? I mean, we know that how important, everybody talks about how important the port is to the city of Long Beach, and we have a pretty good notion about what that is. But what can you tell us about the port that you have learned being a commissioner that you could share with us that we need to know about the port that we don't know?
I think I touched on it. I didn't see you earlier, but I think I touched on it, and that is the fact that, in my opinion, the port throughout the years has been a part of the city's budget. Don't forget that. Has now, in the last several years or so, you see more opening of opportunities with the port. And I think everybody needs to continually see and take advantage of the tours. But I think also you need to, and maybe you guys need to do a better job than we did, to put out a list of everybody that receives the funds from the port for their agencies. I think that's very, very important. So I think that somebody said, how do we get to be a commissioner? The one thing, remember what I've said, power's never given, it's taken. You know, find out about what interests you and then let your city council person know. Let whoever needs to know that you're interested. There might be something you can do there that isn't a port commissioner, but something you want to do. I didn't know too much about water, and I went to an event that John Allen had, and I was taken aback at how much they contribute into our society. So it's interesting to know all of that.
You know, I'm just going to say I'm a harbor commissioner because I had a role model who was a harbor commissioner.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I have to say, because the staff would be disappointed if I didn't, two other wonderful things about the port. 1 out of every 5 jobs in Long Beach is related to the port. And
I think your friend wanted to say something.
yes, well, I have to say one other thing, just one other thing, and that is, and you'd all be disappointed if I didn't say this, Port of Long Beach has the first zero-emission terminal in the Western Hemisphere.
But I will tell you this. Before Bonnie and before Sharon, we talked about a green port. Okay?
Oh, absolutely.
So we know that.
Mario.
Somebody said, why didn't you think about it? I said, we did. Even the bridge, we did.
Ricky.
Hi, Carmen. You touched a little bit. You were an early person that embraced the gay and lesbian community in Long Beach. And as you know, our community is under attack nationwide. And I would just like to know what your thoughts would be as advice to us to defend ourselves and how we need to work together with people of different communities to make sure that we don't lose those rights.
I think that's a very good question. It's a question that hopefully members of Lambda and other organizations are visiting different civic groups in Long Beach and share with them your thoughts and what's going on. I was just talking to my friend right now, and we're talking about Frank Cook and Michael Lunegren and others. They made it a point to go to Don Foltz's home to talk about what was happening with the Briggs Initiative. I think it's important that we do the same thing now. You know, I did one of the last events for the Asian week yesterday near Chinatown. And I did it for Warren Furutani because I was asked to do it. And, you know, there's nothing better than picking up the phone and saying, hey, I need your help. During the pandemic, I'm now very, very cautious of getting any phone calls from Celine Cordero. She can get me into trouble all the time. But she called and said, I have an idea. And this was a person that said, I have an idea. Not, I want to do this. But it was, she said, I'm reading in the paper, I see it in television. Everything is going for the male farm worker. We have a lot of women out there. So what did we do? We put out a flyer. We put out asking for money. We did a lot of things. And in my house, we had like an assembly line where we came and we literally did bags. And Mario, I think you and Gloria went with her to Ventura to get everything out there. It's just thinking of idea, but putting feet to that idea. So do that.
Okay, we have
Teresa.
a question over here, and then we'll do your question next.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Sharon, for this really informative and fun night. Carmen, I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to go with you to your sister's 100th birthday.
Yes.
So you remember we also went to B. Antonor's 90th birthday.
That's right.
What are you going to do for one of your upcoming birthdays down the road?
All my family and dear friends, a casino. A good glass of good wine. Don't give me any cheap wine. Good wine, a casino. And if I ever make it, I've already told my son-in-law, your father, I said, if you ever get really bad news about me, make sure that you give me a really good glass of wine and get some cigarettes. And he said, your daughter will kill me. I said, I don't care, I'm gonna be gone. Right? So I hope you take me to a casino, Teresa.
Noted.
Carmen,
Yes.
you are a force of nature, and we all know it. And thank you for that. Now, having said that, we're going to end the evening soon. Task us with what we need to do at this most perilous time in our country's history. Task us. Tell us what we need to do, please.
You know, I was asked that not too long ago, and I just couldn't be snappy and just say something. I think what I would like to see right now, more than anything, just have people be nicer to each other. You know, it just, for me, it's just unbelievable that we can't. What I said earlier, Linda, and I know that you spend many a weekend registering voters, and I hope that everybody does that again. But I would like to just get to the point that we can be nicer together and that we can talk about issues. But the one thing, if I had to say more than anything, and my kids know it, when you sit at our dinner table, you don't have any damn phones on the table. And if you're not registered, you're not going to get into this conversation. That's what I want people to do. That's what I want them to do all the time. Just be nice to each other, but at the same time, if there's an issue, like Rick had, like I have with the city, don't bend for nothing. You stay with it. You just stay with what you believe, if you believe it to be true. But you don't have to go banging. And you know, 40 years ago, when we were doing it, brother, it was the best thing to do to bang, because we needed to get their attention. Now we have to do it a different way. So that's what I would say to everybody.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to end with that question, and we just
I think-
have... Oh, sorry, Carmen. Oh, Bonnie, did you have a question you want to do? No, we'll do Bonnie's question.
Yeah. Hey, I'm coming to her for money, so make sure.
You know, it's probably a repeat of what Linda just asked and what Rick said, but Carmen, your whole life has been, from the very beginning, about equity, the principles of equity from start to now, and it's not over, so I'm not going to say finish. And so I ask the same question. What would you have us do? It is a very different time front when you went out there and there were no brown faces, period. We are in a different time. It's not enough. What would you have us do?
I'm going to turn it around for a minute, if I may. For those that are in power, listen. When a brown face or a black face or an Asian come. But that Asian community, that black community, that brown community has a responsibility. Before I come and ask you, I better be ready with what I want. And I better be ready with the facts so that when I come to you, you can feel comfortable. And I have to tell you, somebody said, what would you want to do? I think it was somebody asked what else I wanted to do. You know what I would like to do? Is to see people that are younger. Jessica, I hope you're listening. Okay. People that are a lot younger than Ron and I right now, that keep asked to come and step up to the board and do this for them and do that for them. I keep telling all of them, not at my age. I've already done that. And you know what I'm amazed at? And that includes mine. I'm amazed that we don't have as many activists as we did. And if you're really, really honest with yourself, you probably have your own children that are the activists that we were. A lot of people forgot that those ceilings have been broken because a lot of us, you included, Bonnie, a lot of us have worked. I mean, think about the nights we used to spend on getting district elections. Things that we used to do to make sure that we can do that. A lot of people just walk into these things now. How many times, Linda, did you just have to, almost by yourself, you and Joe doing all of the, getting people registered and doing things? I'm surprised that we don't have that. And a lot of them forget how in the heck they got there. For me, there is nothing. My drug of choice, I'll tell you, has to be a day at the spa with my granddaughters, okay? And that's fine. I've earned that. But I also make them work. So it's important that you get kids to start learning that you have a responsibility if you have something. I tell this story, and I'll end with it, that really shook me to the core. I was working for Kenny Hahn. I had to go to a meeting, and the meeting was at that beautiful building on Broadway or Spring, the Altaveri building, OVIT something, building, just beautiful. That was the very first time that I stepped over a homeless person. Literally stepped over that person. And I went up to the meeting and I sat there. And I thought to myself, I started crying. I said to myself, what kind of human being have you come to? I stepped over a person. Never again would I do that. I left that meeting, I went, and my boss said, give me the results. I said, I'm sorry, sir. And I told him why. He said, good reason. After that, one time it was so cold, I saw this woman just shivering. I stopped, got off the car, took off my coat and gave her the coat, and she told me what I could do with the coat in very descriptive words. But you know, the following day, I drove down that same street and she had on my coat. I don't hand out money on the streets. I don't give money out in the streets. I don't do that. But I don't think there's an organization here that hasn't gotten my checks. So you have to do things. I have been so blessed, and I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. So, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.
I really was kind of afraid. I thought, oh God, I hope she doesn't bring up some things.
Ask me afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We really appreciate it. Let's give her another round here.
I'd just like to say one thing. I love the Historical Society because they find historical photos.
We love you too, Carmen.
And we have a certificate for Carmen from Lena Gonzalez, the Senate 33rd District. For you, Carmen. Certificate of recognition.